Welcome back to Signal Programming. This is Tori Lockett speaking, saying thank you again for tuning in. Thank you again for your prayers and wishes. Thank you again for your subscriptions and mentions. Thank you. Thank you. Psalm 32 started with verse 3. Before I confessed my sins, my bones felt limp, and I groaned all day long. Night and day your hand weighed heavily on me, and my strength was gone as in the summer heat. So I confessed my sins and told them all to you. I said, I'll tell the Lord each one of my sins. Then you forgave me and took away my guilt. We want to have the guilt taken away. It's the guilt that causes us to fight one another. It's an inner guilt that causes one to lash out at another. It's an inner guilt. And the inner guilt comes with this word that we call sin. Now, I won't go the nitpicking route and talk about individualized sins and what are considered sins, what are considered deadly, what are considered normal sins. I'm going to say, I'll use an acronym that I think was already pre-mentioned before somewhere out there. Sin, S-I-N, separation in nature, okay? A separation in nature from God, separation in nature from your Creator, separation in nature from Christ who is within you, separation in nature. So, until we confess our separations in nature, and essentially because no one can see either God or the Lord, then at the very least, we will be being honest with ourselves by confessing our separation in nature to ourselves. We would benefit even in that, even in being honest with ourselves, we would benefit. All deity aside, just the self-honesty, just the confession of the separation in nature. You don't have to tell someone, although if you do have people who are mentors to you and are that trustworthy in a time like this, who you can truly confide in, yes, there are allowances for you confessing your sins to another person. But in this case, we're talking about the Lord who cannot be seen. So at the very least, you would be honest with yourself. That's the first step to taking away the guilt. Because without it, our bones feel limp. We feel weak. We groan all day long, which is to say complain. And we feel weak. We feel powerless. This is what happens when we don't recalibrate. When we have a separation in nature, a separation in our true nature, when it goes unacknowledged, we begin to weaken and complain. Night and day, his hand will weigh heavily. His authority will feel tyrannical. It will feel burdensome. Night and day, that means no rest, no relief, no pauses. And your strength will be gone. Your drive, your motivation, your ambition, your will to go on. Your strength will be gone. As in the summer heat, you'll be sapped. If you don't acknowledge your separation in nature. If I don't acknowledge my separation in nature, this is what happened to me. This is what will happen to you. This is what will happen to us. If we don't acknowledge and recalibrate our separation in nature, whoever you truly are, when you depart from that, when you depart from who you really are, these things, these symptoms will accompany you. But the moment you acknowledge them, with the aim of turning away from them, this is when you get your strength back. This is when the Lord's hand is light upon you. This is when it feels liberating. This is when rule and authority feels liberating. Because the guilt is taken away. You can be forgiven by someone and still feel guilty because the conditions around that forgiveness have not changed, and or the explanation in the depths of what your separation in nature entails was not explained. For example, there was a story of a woman who was caught in adultery, and the community were going to stone her to death with rocks. And Jesus said, whoever doesn't have sin, who never experienced a separation in nature before, let that person be the first one to throw the rock. So our laws are not the same as the Lord's. We embellish a lot of stuff and make it worse than what it is, when it's really more simple. And it doesn't involve the tyranny that we as human beings sometimes endorse for selfish gain. Leave the separation in nature. Come back to your true self. Come back. Because that's going to take away the guilt. That's going to take away the weakness. That's going to take away the complaining. That's going to take away the powerlessness. If you have, and when you have a separation in nature from who you really are, separation from your true nature, your true self, whenever that happens, acknowledge it as quickly as possible. This will allow you to change it before it goes too far. Thank you again for listening to Sigma Programming. This is Torian Lockett. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you again for your prayers and wishes. Thank you again for your subscriptions and mentions. Have a spectacular day, good people. Peace.